Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Fitz from the STEM Connection with another STEM Quick Win STEM Professional Interview. And today with us is Rhonda Ham from Corteva Agrisciences. Hi Rhonda, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So glad you could join us. So we'd like to just kind of get started. Can you tell us a little bit about your job title and what you do?
Yeah, so my job title is Global Academic Relations Manager. And essentially all that means is that I do education and outreach for all ages. And so I work with our community partners and develop activities around mostly STEM and agriculture.
Kind of what does a standard day look like for you?
Yeah, so I don't know that I have a standard day because every day is different, which is what I love actually about my
Yeah,
job.
that's great.
So I get to do a lot of different things. So on one day, under normal circumstances, might be getting on a plane to go visit some of our national partners that we work with on education and outreach. So I may be flying to Washington, D.C. or to some place where they are headquartered to visit with them and talk to them about how we can help with materials on education, or maybe there's an event going on where I get to interact with students that are participating in a competition, for example, on a science topic that they've decided to do or a science project that they've done. And so it's that's kind of one potential day. Another day, I might be in the office and working on what are our next programs and how do I work with our employees to get them out into our communities talking about the awesome jobs and careers and opportunities that there are in our industry. So everything from working with our scientists to working with our commercial and sales people, just so that students have that broad experience and exposure to what does a career in agriculture look like? Do you have to have grown up on a farm and be a farmer? And the answer is no. I didn't grow up on a farm, and I'm in agriculture and have absolutely loved it. And it's a part of who I am now. And you can be anything. So if you want to be a lawyer, we have attorneys that work here. If you want to be a scientist, we have scientists of all kinds here. I happen to be an entomologist, so I am a scientist. That's where I started. I'll talk a little bit about what entomology is maybe in a minute. But yeah, those are kind of what my day-to-day looks like. It's very different, and it's exciting. It's collaborative. It's working with a lot of different partners and groups like STEM Connection.
Great. So what is your favorite thing about your job?
Oh, I don't know. There's so many. The favorite thing I think for me though, personally, is that I get to take the science that I love and bring that together and share that with people. And so for me, that's the fun part, is how do I take these science topics that sometimes, to be honest, can be a little overwhelming and maybe even scary, and boil it down to why does it matter and why are these things important and why do we care? And so that for me is the best part. And then getting to actually interact with people and talk to people every day about the amazing things that we do in our food and agriculture industry so that you have food for your family at home.
So with that, can you share a little bit about your STEM journey, how you kind of found your way maybe to Corteva and what you do now, when you maybe started becoming interested in sciences, kind of that whole path for you?
Yes, so I like to describe my career as a career adventure. It's been an adventure for me because it wasn't a straight and narrow path that I followed.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I started out thinking I wanted to be a veterinarian. I loved animals of all sorts, mostly furry animals, not so much the ones that were creepy and crawly. Those came later for me in life. So I started out my path on that. In high school, I got involved in FFA and had a sheep project is what I started out with. So I had some large animals. And then between my junior and senior year in high school, I had the opportunity to be an intern in a science lab. And so I'd always enjoyed science, but I had never really thought of science other than the animal science and veterinary science as a path. So I took that internship, and they didn't really tell you what kind of lab or what kind of project you would be working on necessarily. So when I got there, they said, congratulations, you're going to be working in an entomology lab. And I went, entomology, I think that's the study of insects. I don't really like insects. In fact, I'm terrified of insects. This is not going to be fun. This is not going to be exciting. But I went into it with a positive attitude saying, hey, this is 8 weeks of my life. It's a short time frame in the grand scheme of things. I can get through it. And I started a project. My project was working with ants. And if you've ever watched an ant colony work, they're amazing creatures. And so I developed really this strong interest and appreciation really for what these creatures do on our planet. And for me, that opened a whole huge amount of new space, new science to me. And I had no idea at the time that it completely changed my life, but it did. And so I went to school and have an undergraduate degree in agricultural education, because again, I was passionate about agriculture and education. And then decided to go to graduate school. And when I decided to go to graduate school, I had to pick something that I could do research in. And I didn't really want to do just education. I wanted to do more of the sciences and then pull it into the education. And so I decided to move from California, which is where my hometown is, to upstate New York, and went to Cornell University and have a master's and a PhD in entomology. So that is kind of what started me on my path. Is my path started in high school. And so my career really started there. And then I started right out of school when I graduated with Corteva Agri-Science, and started out as an entomologist there, and have been a lot of different things at Corteva. So I started out working in entomology in the field and the laboratory. So there are lots of different environments you can work in science and STEM. And then I moved into a project manager role where communication and leadership are essential to making sure that teams work well together. And then I moved into a patent liaison role, so writing patent applications for our new inventions, something again I would have never thought I would have an experience in. And now in this role doing education and outreach. So I kind of feel like I've come a little bit full circle in my career, but really it started my career in high school, and with that one experience and that one internship that just introduced me to the area of animals that I never really considered.
No, I love that. And just how many different kind of opportunities there were along the way that sometimes we don't even really think about until you kind of get going and kind of get into it. And then you kind of realize how lots of different things are connected and lots of different people work together and different teams and different settings to make everything work.
And I think the part of the beauty of it is you don't have to have it all figured out. Like I thought I had to have every single thing figured out. Okay, I'm going to be a vet, and then I'm going to start my own practice, and I'm going to work on large animals. And I thought you had to have it all figured out. And what I've learned over time is that you really don't have to have it figured out. Take opportunities as they come. Some you take and some may not be a good fit, and you learn that. You learn from every single thing that happens in your life. And so you don't have to have it all figured out. You can experiment and try new things. That's the fun of life.
Yeah, I love that. And you kind of mentioned this a little bit in your talking just in your path, but in Indiana, we have our employability skills standards. Kind of show that here real quick in case we have some people who aren't from Indiana. But I shared those with you, and I know you've seen those previously. Can you speak to which one or two of those kind of are really important to be successful in the work that you do?
Yeah, I think for me, two that really stood out. One was, given my career path that I just talked about, lifelong learning. That is so important, to be passionate about wanting to learn new things always. And that's what I enjoy. I enjoy trying to be challenged and learn new things. And for me, that is something that all those different career paths, if I hadn't have been a lifelong learner, I might not have done well in some of those, right? They're brand new skills that need to be applied. And so to me, that's super important to be able to accept the opportunities that come. You have to be willing to adjust and learn along the way. And so for me, I think that's a key one. And then another one, there's actually two. One is the communications piece. So doing what I do now, it's super important to be able to communicate clearly. And for me, it's communicating with a wide variety of audiences. So everything from students that I may be talking to, so hi everyone out there right now, to scientists in our lab, to other leaders of the business world. So it varies, and that communication is really critical to be able to get your message across. And what is it I'm really trying to say? And so I think having that communication, those communication skills is really important as well. And then collaboration. Nobody works alone. And so in order to be successful, you have to be successful with groups and with teams. And so collaboration is another one that I could not do my job and would not be successful if it weren't for my amazing colleagues and partners that I have and that I work with every day.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And then this is another question we like to ask our STEM professionals. What sorts of tools or technology do you use in your job that you could share a little bit with us today?
Yeah, so I'm using Zoom a lot now these days. That's one. So from a technology standpoint, it's great to be able to connect with people all over the world. So my role is actually a global role. So I actually have used a lot of the Zoom technologies prior to what's going on right now in order to connect with different regions. So I may be having an afternoon phone call with someone in Africa or a morning phone call in Brazil. And so it's so great to be able to connect through technology. But then going back to my entomology roots, some of the tools and technologies that we use are much simpler at times. And so I actually brought some of the tools that I use. So this is actually, it usually hangs around my neck when I'm out in the field. And so when I need it, I just pick it up, and it is a magnifying glass. So I can just look through there and see very, very teeny tiny insects, do counts. So this is a key tool for me that's pretty simple. The other one that I'm going to lean back and hopefully not fall off my ball chair is a sweep net. And so when you're going out and collecting insects, you have to catch them some way. And so this makes it much easier than trying to run and catch them by hand. So the sweep net for me is another one. Another one is plastic containers. Don't throw these away. These make great little capture devices. So if you want to go on a insect scavenger hunt, which I'll share with you in a little bit, you can keep a plastic container, and then you can observe insects, watch their behavior, make notes and observations, which is really key to those critical STEM objectives and skills.
Yeah, I love that sweep net. I know I have a couple young daughters, so we go to the Children's Museum, and up in the science work section, there's the sweep net where you can kind of simulate doing that kind of through the crop field. So
that might have come from me, actually.
We're very familiar with it. My girls love doing that one, and I'm sure some of the other kids that might be watching have tried their hand at a little sweep netting up at the museum. So can you share with us an idea of something that families could do to kind of...
So I actually created kind of a insect scavenger hunt. So this is one I did yesterday. So I don't know if you can really read that, but let me read it for you. Basically at the top it says insect scavenger hunt, and I have two categories. I have one for insects and then one for others, because there are an awful lot of things where sometimes you're just not quite sure, is it an insect or not an insect? So then I usually put it in other and write some notes, and then figure out later when I can sit down with either the internet or a book that actually describes insects to say, okay, what did I actually find? So there's a couple of ways to do this, is to go outside, and whether you have a pot on the deck or a yard or a couple of flowers maybe in a pot, all of those are great opportunities to look for insects. Look up, look down, look all around, because insects are everywhere. Some fly, some don't, and so we have to look pretty carefully. So on my insect scavenger hunt, I did this yesterday when it was nice outside. I found, and I basically just wrote some notes. So write down your observations. What do you see? What do you notice about that? And so my first one is I found it flying. It landed under the ledge of my planter, and it was reddish black in color, with a thin, what I called waist, and narrow wings, with kind of a pointy abdomen. So could you think of maybe what that might be?
I'm not sure.
There's lots of things it could be, right?
Yeah.
Give us But if you'd seen it, that thin waist part kind of gave it away. So it was a wasp. And so
Okay.
that was one of the things that I found. Another one that I found under the insects category was small, pretty hard to see. So that's when my magnifying glass came into handy. And it was inside the tulip flower. So I had a flower that actually opened, and this little insect was down inside there. And it was tiny, 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 and black with little bitty wings. And so that was actually a type of fly that was in there. And I know it was a fly because I have experience. So you might have to look a little harder to figure out what it was. And then some of the ones that were in the other category, I had one that I found on the ground, and it was brown and long and looked kind of gooey a little bit, and it had no legs, and it wiggled. I bet everybody can figure that one out. Came from the soil.
A worm, an earthworm.
It was a worm, yes. So that went in the other category because it doesn't have 6 legs, not 3 body parts, so it's not an insect. But I encourage you to make your own scavenger hunt. So take notes about what observations you see. And if you happen to have a container, you can actually bring one of those inside, and you can figure out, maybe what it might eat, or, what it might like. And so you could run some observations and experiments actually on a creature that you captured from outside. So as an entomologist, if you are interested in public health and helping people, you can be a medical entomologist. If you like working with animals, you can be a veterinary entomologist. If you are interested in solving crimes, there are forensic entomologists that look at, what insects are at the crime scene, and how can those tell us, things about what the temperature was like when that crime happened, and did it happen there where things moved from some other location. And so there's really super cool things that can be done in entomology. It's not really just all about pests and how do we control them. That is definitely an important thing because we don't want them eating our houses or our food, right? So we definitely have to have that. But there are so many opportunities, again, to engage in that space if you're interested.
So, Rhonda, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us more about what you do, and how we can all kind of be entomologists at our own homes. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, and if anyone finds something really cool, take a picture and submit it to us.
Absolutely. We always love to see what people find. Thank you so much.